The rain fell hard on the metal roof of Tae-ho Kim's workshop. Thunder rolled across the dark sky of Kepler 442b, and lightning lit up the small colony buildings scattered across the rocky ground. Tae-ho wiped his hands on an old cloth and looked at the broken engine parts spread across his work table. Another long day was finally ending. His workshop sat at the edge of New Seoul Colony, far from the fancy buildings in the center where the rich traders lived. Out here, people came to fix things that nobody else wanted to touch. Broken mining equipment, old transport ships, and sometimes stranger things from the deep parts of space. Tae-ho fixed them all. He had good hands and a sharp mind for machines. The storm grew worse outside. Wind howled through the gaps in the workshop walls, making the lights flicker. Tae-ho had seen many storms on this world, but this one felt different. Stronger, more angry. He was putting away his tools when he heard something that made him stop. A sound like metal scraping against stone came from outside. Then a crash like something very big had fallen down. Tae-ho grabbed a flashlight and his raincoat. He opened the workshop door and stepped into the storm. The rain hit his face like small stones. He could barely see past his hand, but the flashlight beam cut through the darkness. He walked around the side of his building, following the strange sounds. His boots splashed through puddles and mud. Then he saw it. A dragon lay on the ground near his workshop. But not like the dragons from old Earth stories. This one was real, huge, and broken. Its body was longer than 2 transport ships put together. Scales that should have been bright and shining were dull and gray. Many were cracked or missing completely. Dark blood ran from cuts all across its body. The dragon's wings were torn in many places. One wing bone stuck out at a wrong angle. Its great head rested on the muddy ground, breathing slow and hard. Steam rose from its nostrils with each breath. Tae-ho had never seen a dragon this close before. Everyone knew they existed. The big companies used them as weapons and workers. But they kept dragons far away from normal people. Seeing one here alone and hurt made Tae-ho's heart beat fast. He took a step closer. The dragon's eye opened. It was bigger than Tae-ho's head, the color of old gold. For a moment they just looked at each other. The dragon and the mechanic. 2 beings from different worlds meeting in a storm. The dragon tried to lift its head but was too weak. It made a sound, deep and sad. Then it spoke. Its voice was so quiet that Tae-ho almost missed it over the storm. "May I have scraps, sir?" The words hit Tae-ho like lightning. This great creature, this dragon from the old stories, was asking for scraps. Like a dog. Like something broken and forgotten. Tae-ho looked into the dragon's eyes again. He saw pain there, not just from the wounds on its body, but something deeper, something that hurt worse than any cut. He saw shame and fear and terrible empty hunger. But he also saw something else, a tiny spark that refused to die, a small piece of pride that still lived, even after everything bad that had happened to this creature. "What's your name?" Tae-ho asked. The dragon blinked slowly. "They call me Unit 774, but my name is Baek-ryong." "Baek-ryong," Tae-ho repeated. "White dragon." The dragon's eye widened. "You speak the old language." "My grandmother taught me some words." She said names have power. Thunder crashed overhead. The rain fell even harder. Tae-ho knew he should be scared. Dragons were dangerous. They could breathe fire and tear apart steel ships. The companies that owned them had rules about what happened to people who touched their property. But looking at Baek-ryong now, hurt and asking for scraps, Tae-ho felt no fear. Only sadness for what had been done to this proud creature. "Can you move?" Tae-ho asked. "A little, but nowhere to go." "They will find me soon." "Who will find you?" "My owners." "The consortium. I ran away from the fighting ships. Stupid thing to do. Now they hunt me." Tae-ho made a choice then that would change everything. He pointed to his workshop. "Can you get inside there? The big door and back?" Baek-ryong lifted his head a little higher. "Why would you help me? I am nothing. Property, broken property." "You're not nothing," Tae-ho said firmly. "You have a name. You chose to run away. That makes you somebody." For the first time, something like hope flickered in the dragon's golden eyes. It took a long time for Baek-ryong to drag himself to the workshop. His back legs didn't work right, and he had to pull his heavy body across the mud with his front claws. Tae-ho helped as much as he could, pushing and lifting, getting covered in mud and dragon blood. The workshop's back door was big enough for mining equipment, so Baek-ryong could just fit through. He collapsed again on the concrete floor, breathing hard. His scales left a trail of blood and mud behind him. Tae-ho brought every clean cloth he had to stop the worst bleeding. He found some old pain medicine from the first aid kit and mixed it with water for Baek Ryong to drink. Then he brought food, not scraps but good food from his own kitchen, meat and bread and fruit. Baek Ryong ate slowly like he couldn't believe it was real. When he finished, he looked at Taeho with something new in his eyes. "Why?" he asked simply. Taeho sat on his work stool and thought about the question. Why was he helping a dragon? Why risk everything for a creature he just met? "Because you asked nicely," he said finally. "And because everyone deserves better than scraps." Outside, the storm began to calm. But inside the workshop, something much bigger was just beginning. 3 days passed since the storm brought Baek Ryong to Taeho's workshop. The dragon was getting stronger, but he still could not fly. His torn wings needed more time to heal. Taeho had moved all his work to the front of the shop, keeping the back area clear for his unusual guest. Every morning, Taeho brought food and fresh water. Not scraps from the garbage, but real meals. Good meat, bread, and even some fruits that cost extra at the colony market. Baek Ryong ate slowly, still surprised each time that the food was for him. "You don't have to do this," Baek Ryong said on the third morning. His voice was getting stronger too. "I know," Taeho replied, checking the bandages on the dragon's wing. "But I want to. Your people will be angry if they find out. Let me worry about my people." But Taeho knew Baek Ryong was right to worry. That afternoon, his assistant Soo-jin Park came back from her day off. She was young and smart, good with computers and organizing parts. She always helped Taeho when the work got too much for one person. Soo-jin walked through the front door with a smile, ready to tell Taeho about her weekend. The smile died when she saw his worried face. "What's wrong?" she asked. "I need to show you something, and I need you to promise not to scream." Soo-jin raised one eyebrow. "That's not a good start to a conversation." Taeho led her to the back of the workshop. When she saw Baek Ryong lying there, her eyes went very wide. She did not scream, but she did take 3 quick steps backward. That's a dragon," she whispered. "Yes. In our workshop. Yes. A real dragon. His name is Baek Ryong. He's hurt." Soo-jin looked at the dragon, then at Taeho, then at the dragon again. Baek Ryong watched her with careful golden eyes, ready to see fear or hate or disgust. Instead, Soo-jin surprised them both. "He looks sad," she said softly. "He is sad," Taeho agreed. Soo-jin moved a little closer. "What happened to you?" she asked Baek Ryong directly. The dragon's head lifted slightly. People rarely spoke to him like he was a person. "I was in the fighting ships, made to fight other creatures for entertainment. I got tired of it." "So you ran away?" "Yes, stupid thing to do." "I don't think it was stupid," Soo-jin said. "I think it was brave." Something warm flickered in Baek Ryong's eyes. 2 humans had now been kind to him. He was starting to remember what kindness felt like, but Soo-jin was still worried. She pulled Taeho aside and spoke in a low voice. "Do you know what will happen if they find him here? The consortium doesn't just fine people for stealing their property. They make examples of them. I know the risks, do you? Because I looked it up after I saw him. Dragons are worth millions of credits. The punishment for harboring stolen consortium property is 20 years in prison, or worse." Taeho looked back at Baek Ryong, who was pretending not to listen but clearly heard every word. "Then we make sure they don't find him." Soo-jin sighed. She had worked with Taeho for 2 years. She knew that look on his face. Once he decided to help someone, nothing could change his mind. "Okay," she said. "What do we do?" Over the next few days, they developed a routine. Soo-jin handled customers at the front of the shop while Taeho worked on repairs. When anyone asked why the back area was off limits, they said it was being fumigated for insects. Most people didn't ask questions. During quiet times, Taeho and Soo-jin spent time with Baek Ryong. They learned about his life, and he learned about theirs. The stories he told made them both angry and sad. Baek Ryong had been taken from his family when he was very young. He barely remembered his mother or father. The consortium raised him in cages, training him to fight and follow orders. He had never seen a sunset without bars in front of it, never chosen what to eat or where to sleep, never had a friend. What was it like? Soo-jin asked one evening. The fighting? Baek Ryong was quiet for a long time. They put us in arenas. Big crowds would watch and cheer. We fought other dragons or strange beasts from different worlds. Sometimes we fought machines. The crowds liked it when there was lots of blood. Did you? Did you kill others? Yes. His voice was very small. They made us. If we didn't fight hard enough, they would hurt us with electric shocks, or they would not feed us. Some dragons learned to enjoy the fighting. I never did. I just wanted it to stop. Teho put his hand on one of Bekryong's scales. It was warm, like touching smooth stone that had been in the sun. It has stopped, he said firmly. You're safe now. For how long? They will find me eventually. And when they do, we'll figure something out. But figuring something out got harder on the 7th day. Sujin came running into the workshop, her face white with fear. Teho, there are consortium ships landing at the spaceport. Military ships. And they're asking questions about missing property. Bekryong raised his head. They found my trail. I should go. I should not bring danger to you. You're not going anywhere, Teho said. Sujin, help me move the heavy equipment. We need to hide him better. Where? He's the size of a transport ship. The old storm cellar. Under the floor. They had built the workshop over an old emergency shelter from the colony's early days. The entrance was hidden under a removable floor panel. It was big enough to hold supplies for 50 people during bad storms. It would be tight, but Bekryong could fit. Moving him down there was not easy. His injured wing made it hard to squeeze through the opening. But they managed it, just as footsteps sounded outside the workshop's front door. Teho and Sujin quickly replaced the floor panel and scattered tools around to make it look normal. Sujin sat at the computer pretending to work on inventory. Teho picked up a wrench and started tinkering with an engine. The door opened without knocking. 3 people in dark uniforms walked in. The leader was tall and thin with cold gray eyes. His badge said, Captain Dongwoo Choi, Consortium Enforcement. Good morning, he said, but his voice was not friendly. We're looking for stolen property. A dragon. Unit 774. Haven't seen any dragons, Teho said, not looking up from his work. This is just a repair shop. I see. Captain Choi walked around the workshop, looking at everything. This dragon is very valuable, worth more than your entire colony. The reward for information leading to its recovery is also quite generous. Sujin's fingers tapped nervously on her keyboard. Under their feet, Bekryong held very still and tried not to breathe too loud. Still haven't seen any dragons? Teho repeated. Captain Choi smiled, but it was not a nice smile. Well, if you do see anything unusual, I'm sure you'll contact us immediately. We'll be staying on world until our property is recovered. The enforcement team left, but their threat hung in the air like smoke. Through the floor, they could hear Bekryong's heart beating fast with fear. They were all in danger now. But somehow, that only made Teho more determined to protect his new friend. 2 weeks had passed since Captain Choi's visit. Bekryong stayed hidden in the underground shelter during the day, but at night when the workshop was closed, Teho and Sujin let him come up to stretch his wings. The dragon was healing well, but something else was happening too. Something that surprised them all. It started when an old mining robot broke down. The machine was ancient, and its computer brain had stopped working completely. Teho had been trying to fix it for days, but the problem was too complex. The robot's systems were tangled together in ways that made no sense. Bekryong watched Teho work on it one evening. The dragon's golden eyes followed every wire and circuit. The energy flows are wrong, Bekryong said suddenly. Teho looked up from his tools. What do you mean? In the machine. The power wants to move in a circle, but you're making it go straight, like trying to make a river flow uphill. Teho frowned. He had built and fixed machines for 20 years, but he had never heard anyone describe them the way Bekryong just did. Show me what you mean, he said. Bekryong moved closer to the broken robot. He could not use his claws on the small parts, but he pointed with his snout. There. That connection. It fights against the natural flow. And there, that wire carries angry energy. It wants to find a peaceful path. It sounded crazy, but Teho decided to try. He moved the connections the way Bekryong suggested. To his amazement, the robot's lights came on. Not only did it work, but it ran smoother and quieter than it ever had before. How did you know that? Sujin asked, staring at the fixed machine. Bekryong looked embarrassed. I feel the energy inside things. Always could, even as a little dragon. But the consortium said it was stupid. They trained me to ignore it and just follow orders. Over the following days, they discovered that Bekryong could sense problems in any machine just by being near it. He could feel where energy flowed wrong, where parts were stressed, where failures would happen before they did. Working together, he and Teho fixed things faster and better than either could alone. But their peaceful time was ending. More consortium ships arrived each day. Search teams spread out from the colony center, checking every building and cave. They offered bigger and bigger rewards for information about the missing dragon. "They're getting closer," Sujin said one morning, watching enforcement officers search the building next door. "Someone will tell them about this place soon." Taeho nodded grimly. Maybe it's time to move Baekryong somewhere else. Somewhere safer. But before they could make plans, the front door burst open. Captain Choi walked in with 10 armed soldiers. Their weapons were already pointed at Taeho and Sujin. "Good morning," Captain Choi said with his cold smile. "We received an interesting report. Seems someone heard strange sounds coming from this workshop at night. Big sounds. Dragon-sized sounds." Taeho's heart pounded, but he kept his voice steady. "Just working late. Machines make noise, I'm sure they do. But we're going to search anyway. Tear this place apart. Check every corner." The soldiers spread out, pulling apart shelves and moving equipment. They had scanning devices that could detect heat and movement through walls. It would only be a matter of time before they found the hidden entrance to the underground shelter. Taeho made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. "Wait," he called out. "Stop searching." Captain Choi raised an eyebrow. "Oh, ready to cooperate?" "Yes, the dragon is here." Sujin stared at him in shock. Below their feet, Baekryong must have heard everything. "I thought you might see reason," Captain Choi said smugly. "Where is our property?" "He's not your property," Taeho said firmly. "He's my family." "Excuse me?" Taeho walked to his desk and pulled out an official document he had been working on for days. Sujin had helped him research the legal language. Under Colonial Law Section 12, Article 4, I formally adopt Baekryong as my family member. This makes him a citizen of Earth's colonial territories with all rights and protections. Captain Choi laughed. "You cannot adopt a dragon. They are not people. He has a name. He makes choices. He can feel pain and joy and hope. That makes him a person under human law. Human law means nothing here. Consortium law rules this sector? Then we have a problem," Taeho said calmly. The captain's face turned red with anger. "Bring me that dragon now or I'll have you shot for theft." That's when the floor panel exploded upward. Baekryong burst out of the underground shelter like a volcano erupting. His scales, which had been dull and gray when Taeho first found him, now gleamed with inner fire. His golden eyes blazed with something the soldiers had never seen in a dragon before. Defiance. But he did not attack. Instead, he moved to stand beside Taeho, facing the soldiers together. "I am Baekryong," the dragon said, his voice deep and proud. "I choose to stand with my friend. I choose to be free." The soldiers raised their weapons, but Captain Choi held up a hand to stop them. He stared at Baekryong in confusion. This was not how dragons were supposed to act. They should be cowering, begging, broken. "Unit 774, you will return to your transport immediately. You are valuable consortium property." "My name is Baekryong," the dragon repeated. "And I am not property anymore." Something strange began to happen. The lights in the workshop grew brighter without anyone touching the switches. The broken machines around the room hummed to life. The very air seemed to vibrate with energy. Baekryong was not just standing up for himself. He was remembering what dragons had been before the consortium enslaved them. Creatures of power and wisdom, connected to the deep forces of the universe. "Impossible," Captain Choi whispered. "Dragons cannot. You're not supposed to." "There are many things you don't know about dragons," Baekryong said. "Things we forgot ourselves until someone reminded us that we have choices." The dragon looked down at Taeho with warmth and gratitude. "This human showed me kindness without expecting anything back. He gave me a name and called me family. He helped me remember who I am." Sujin stepped forward to stand with them too. "If you want him, you have to go through all of us." Captain Choi was furious but also confused. His orders were to bring back a broken slave dragon. Instead, he found a proud being who refused to be owned, protected by humans who were willing to die for him. "This is not over," he growled. "Admiral Yi Jun-seo is coming with a full battle fleet. When he arrives, your little legal games won't save you." "Maybe not," Taeho agreed. "But we'll face that when it comes." The enforcement team left, but everyone knew they would be back. And next time, they would bring enough firepower to level the entire colony if necessary. As the soldiers' footsteps faded, Baekryong nuzzled Taeho gently with his great head. "Thank you," the dragon said softly. "For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm worth something." You were always worth something, Teho replied. You just needed someone to help you remember. Outside, storm clouds were gathering again, but this time, the storm would be made of starships and laser cannons. The real test was just beginning. News of what happened at Teho's workshop spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. For the first time in 300 years, a dragon had refused to obey the consortium. More shocking still, humans had defended the dragon's right to choose freedom. Dr. Haewon Young arrived on Kepler 442b 3 days after Captain Choi's confrontation. She was a famous scientist who studied different alien species. Her ship landed quietly at night, away from the consortium forces watching the colony. I had to come see this for myself, she told Teho as they sat in his workshop. Baekryong lay nearby, listening to their conversation. What you've done here, it's changing everything. We just treated him like a person, Teho said simply. Dr. Young pulled out her scanning equipment. May I study you? She asked Baekryong directly. I want to understand what's happening to you. Will it hurt? Not at all. I just want to measure your brain activity and energy patterns. Baekryong agreed, curious about the changes he felt inside himself. Dr. Young's machines hummed and beeped as they scanned the dragon from different angles. After an hour, she sat back with amazement on her face. Incredible, she whispered. Your brain is quantum entangled with energy fields across space. Dragons are natural engineers of reality itself, but the scans show damage, old damage from forced conditioning. What does that mean? Sujin asked. It means the consortium has been deliberately breaking dragons' minds to make them obedient. They use torture and drugs to cut the connections that make dragons special. But Baekryong's connections are healing. Why? Teho wanted to know. Because you treated him with respect and kindness. Positive emotions help repair quantum neural pathways. The consortium never figured this out because they never tried being nice to dragons. Dr. Young's discovery explained why Baekryong could sense machine problems and fix them in ways that seemed impossible. Dragons were meant to work with energy and matter at the deepest levels. Slavery had stolen this gift from them, but freedom could bring it back. Word of Dr. Young's findings reached other worlds. On distant planets, enslaved dragons began to stir. Some remembered fragments of old songs their grandparents had sung. Others felt strange dreams of flying free among the stars. The consortium grew worried. If dragons everywhere started refusing orders, their empire would collapse overnight. That's when Admiral Yi Jun, CEO, arrived with his fleet. 50 warships dropped out of hyperspace above Kepler 442b. Each ship carried enough firepower to crack open a moon. The admiral sent a message to the colony government. Surrender the dragon and the humans protecting it or watch their world burn. But something else happened that same day. Another fleet appeared in the system. This one flew the blue and white flag of Earth's colonial defense force. General Kyung-ho Lim's voice crackled across all communication channels. This is General Lim of the Earth Defense Fleet. Any attack on human colonies will be considered an act of war. Admiral Seo was furious. You dare threaten the consortium? You have 12 ships. I have 50. I have something better than ships, General Lim replied calmly. I have the right cause. The two fleets faced each other in space while the people on Kepler 442b held their breath. But before the first shot could be fired, something unexpected happened. More dragons began appearing. They came from hiding places across the galaxy. Dragons who had escaped from fighting pits. Dragons who had been left for dead after battles. Old dragons who remembered the time before slavery. Young dragons who had heard whispers of a place where their kind could be free. They didn't come alone. Each dragon brought human friends, mechanics, farmers, teachers, doctors. People who had shown kindness to dragons and discovered the amazing partnership that was possible. Min-Soo Kang was among them. He was a lawyer who specialized in rights for non-human people. He had been fighting in courts across the galaxy to establish legal protections for dragons. The precedent is set, he announced to both fleets. 17 colonial governments have now recognized dragon citizenship. The consortium's property claims are no longer valid under interstellar law. Admiral Seo refused to accept this. Law is what the strongest fleet says it is, and we are the strongest. But as he spoke, the dragons began to sing. It started with Baekryong, down in Teho's workshop, a low resonant note that seemed to come from his very soul. Other dragons picked up the song, their voices joining in harmony across the star system. Soon, dragons on 50 different worlds were singing together. The song did something impossible. It reached across space and time, touching the quantum fields that Dr. Young had discovered. Reality itself began to respond to the dragons' voices. Energy flowed differently around the singing dragons. Their human partners found that machines worked better, plants grew faster, and wounded people healed more quickly. The song was repairing the damage that centuries of slavery had done to the universe itself. In space, Admiral Seo's fleet began having problems. Their weapon systems wouldn't charge properly. Their engines ran rough. Their computers gave confusing readings. It was as if the universe itself was refusing to cooperate with violence against the dragons. "What's happening to my ships?" the Admiral demanded. Dr. Young, now broadcasting from Kepler 442b, had an answer. Dragons are creatures of harmony and balance. When they work together freely, they can influence the fundamental forces of reality. Your ships are built on principles of domination and control. They can't function in a field of pure cooperation. General Lim's ships, meanwhile, ran better than ever. His human crews worked alongside Dragon volunteers who had joined Earth's fleet. Together, they created a new kind of space travel, faster, cleaner, and more efficient than anything the galaxy had seen. "This is impossible," Admiral Seo raged. "Dragons are just animals, tools." "No." Baekryong's voice echoed across all communication channels carried by the quantum song. "We are partners. We are family. We are free." The dragon's words reached every enslaved dragon in consortium territory. Across 1,000 worlds, dragons began to remember who they were. Some broke their chains through pure will. Others were freed by human friends who chose kindness over fear. The consortium's empire started crumbling as their primary workforce simply walked away. Without dragons to power their machines and fight their battles, they were just another group of bullies with fancy uniforms. Admiral Seo faced a choice. He could start a war he could not win, or he could accept the new reality. His weapons wouldn't work properly against beings who radiated peace and cooperation. His own crew was beginning to question orders to attack innocent people. "This isn't over," he said finally, but his voice lacked conviction. "Yes, it is," Taeho replied from his workshop. "It's been over since the moment I looked into Baekryong's eyes and saw a person looking back." The consortium fleet withdrew, leaving the system to dragons and humans who chose to stand together. But their retreat was not a defeat. It was the beginning of something entirely new. Down in his workshop, Taeho scratched behind Baekryong's jaw ridges. The dragon rumbled with contentment, a sound like distant thunder. "So what happens now?" Sujin asked. Baekryong lifted his great head and looked at the stars through the workshop window. His eyes gleamed with possibilities. "Now we build a better galaxy," he said. "Together." 1 year later, the galaxy looked completely different. Kepler 442b had become the capital of something new, the Dragon-Human Cooperative. Where once there had been a small mining colony, now stood a beautiful city that seemed to grow from the planet itself. The buildings curved and flowed like living things, built with technology that merged human engineering with dragon wisdom. Taeho stood on the balcony of the cooperative headquarters, watching ships land and take off from the spaceport below. But these weren't the harsh military vessels of the old consortium. These ships moved like dancers, their hulls singing with harmonious energy fields. Dragon and human crews worked together on every vessel. "The morning reports, Ambassador Kim," Sujin said, walking up beside him. She now managed all the administrative work for the growing alliance. "Still feels weird being called ambassador," Taeho said, taking the data pad from her. "You started all this when you chose kindness over fear," Sujin reminded him. "If anyone deserves the title, it's you." The reports were good. 47 worlds had now joined the cooperative. Former consortium territory was transforming. As freed dragons helped humans build cleaner cities, heal damaged ecosystems, and develop technologies that worked with nature instead of against it. A familiar rumbling sound made them both look up. Baekryong descended from the sky, his scales now brilliant white and silver. His torn wings had healed completely, and he flew with the grace of a creature born to rule the air. But more than that, he flew with joy. "Good morning, my friends," Baekryong said as he landed on the headquarters roof. The building had been designed with a special platform just for him. "How did the meeting with the Earth Council go?" Taeho asked. Baekryong's golden eyes sparkled with satisfaction. "They have agreed to the trade agreements. Human colonies will share their manufacturing knowledge in exchange for dragon assistance with energy management and terraforming. What about the other thing? Ah yes, they also agreed to help us find more lost dragons. There are still thousands scattered across the galaxy, many of them hiding or too broken to remember who they are. This was close to Baek Ryong's heart. Every day more dragons made their way to cooperative space. Some came alone, following whispered stories of freedom. Others were brought by humans who had found them and chosen compassion over profit. Each dragon's story was different, but they all shared the same themes: capture as children, forced conditioning, years of slavery, and then the slow rediscovery of their true nature through human kindness. Minsu Kang had established legal centers across the galaxy to help newly freed dragons navigate their rights as citizens. Dr. Haewon Young ran healing centers where dragons could recover from the mental damage of slavery. Her research had revealed that dragons and humans were uniquely compatible partners. Each species brought out the best in the other. But the most important changes were smaller and more personal. Taeho walked down to the main workshop level, where he still fixed machines. But now he worked alongside a team of dragon partners who could sense problems in ways no scanner could detect. Young dragons came here to learn, and human apprentices worked beside them as equals. Master Taeho, a young voice called out. A 10-year-old human girl named Yoonha waved at him from across the workshop. She was working on a transport engine with her dragon friend Boram, who was about the same age in dragon years. What have you two discovered today? Taeho asked, walking over to them. Boram showed me how to feel the energy flows in the engine, Yoonha said excitedly. It's like the whole machine is alive. Boram, whose scales were still the soft blue-green of a young dragon, nodded enthusiastically. And Yoonha taught me about gear ratios and why they matter. Humans think about machines in such interesting ways. This was the real miracle, Taeho thought. Not the great fleets or the political changes, but children of two species learning from each other without fear or prejudice. They would grow up as true partners, building a future that neither species could create alone. Later that evening, as the twin sons of Kepler 442b sat behind the mountains, Taeho and Baek Ryong sat together outside the workshop where their friendship had begun. The building had been preserved exactly as it was, even though it was now surrounded by the gleaming structures of the new city. Do you ever regret it? Baek Ryong asked quietly. Your life was simpler before you found me, Taeho smiled. Do you regret asking for scraps instead of trying to steal them? No. Asking for help was the first choice I ever made for myself. Then I don't regret helping. Besides, look around. Taeho gestured at the city lights beginning to twinkle in the growing darkness. You think I could have built all this alone? We built it together, Baek Ryong corrected. Dragons and humans working as partners, like it was always meant to be. A small commotion at the spaceport caught their attention. Another refugee ship was landing, this one carrying dragons and humans from a former consortium mining world. They would need food, medical care, and help adjusting to freedom. Without being asked, volunteers from the city were already heading to the spaceport with supplies and welcome baskets. Dragon families flew alongside human families, ready to help newcomers find their place in this strange new galaxy, where kindness was valued over strength. First speaker Baek Ryong, a young dragon, called out as she landed nearby. The new arrivals are asking about the stories they heard, about the human who shared his food and the dragon who learned to choose. Baek Ryong chuckled, a sound like distant thunder. Tell them the stories are true, and tell them this is just the beginning. As the night deepened, Taeho and Baek Ryong sat in comfortable silence, watching their city come alive with the lights of 1,000 different species, learning to live together. Ships from Earth brought human families seeking adventure and purpose. Dragon clans arrived from distant worlds, following ancient migration routes they had almost forgotten. You know what I think about sometimes? Taeho said eventually. What? That first night in the storm. What would have happened if I had just walked past you? Baek Ryong considered this seriously. I probably would have died, and the consortium would still rule the galaxy through fear, and I would have lived my whole life fixing broken machines, never knowing that I could help fix a broken galaxy instead. Do you think there are other dragons out there, still waiting for someone to show them kindness? Taeho nodded. I'm sure of it. And there are humans waiting to learn what real partnership looks like. They sat quietly for a while longer, two friends from different worlds who had changed the course of galactic history by choosing to see each other as family. Finally, Beck Ryong stirred. I should check on the newcomers. Some of them are very young and frightened. Go ahead, Taeho said. I'll be here when you get back. As Baek Ryong launched himself into the night sky, his scales glowing softly in the starlight, Taeho reflected on how much had changed since that stormy night 1 year ago. The workshop was the same, but everything else was different. The galaxy was healing. Dragons were free. Humans had learned that their greatest strength wasn't in conquering others, but in lifting them up. And it all started with 6 simple words. May I have scraps, sir? A question that became the foundation for a new kind of civilization, built on respect, partnership, and the revolutionary idea that everyone, no matter how different, deserved better than scraps. In the distance, Taeho could hear Baek Ryong talking gently to frightened refugee dragons, his voice carrying across the night air like a lullaby. You are safe now. You have choices now. You are family now. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new refugees, and new opportunities to prove that kindness was stronger than conquest. But tonight, Taeho Kim, former mechanic, current ambassador and eternal friend to dragons, smiled and watched the stars, knowing that the universe was a little bit brighter than it had been before. The miracle wasn't in the technology or the politics or the grand speeches. The miracle was in the moment when one being chose to help another, expecting nothing in return except the chance to do what was right. Everything else was just the echo of that single act of compassion, rippling outward across space and time, changing everything it touched.